Hi. Salespeople are needed to support your growth. You know that. But we found that high growth businesses are approximately 50% underallocated, meaning that they've got 50% fewer salespeople than they actually need in their plans. They're kidding themselves. That can really hurt when you get that wrong. Let me show you how to calculate how many salespeople you need to support your growth. So we looked at all of the plans in our database. There are about 2,000 at the moment, and we found that plans that are targeting the highest growth average about 66% growth. So that's fantastic growth. Those who are targeting the slowest growth averaged about 15%, which is not tardy by any stretch of the imagination. Salesforce growth for the fastest plans, though, averaged only 33% compared to the 66% they're expecting to their top line. Is that a 47% efficiency gain or delusion? Let's dive into the data a bit and I'll show you how to calculate the kind of sales force that you need to support your growth. Well, let's start by setting clear objectives. Then we'll take a look at the channel size and velocity. We'll set our objectives at €1,000 in the first year. We're going to get that from 20 deals, so obviously they're €50,000 each. We're going to grow at 100%. Now I want to talk very briefly about revenue versus sales targets. If 100% of your revenue this year will come from sales that you need to make this year, then revenue and sales are the same number. But most businesses, some of their revenue comes from sales they've already made. So what you want here is your sales target, not your revenue target. I've got some more videos inside the application to explain that a bit further. So let's take a look at Salesforce size. Here we've allowed 2 salespeople because that's what this business has right now, and because we're growing at 100% a year, we're going to double it next year and we're going to double it the year after. Now that seems really obvious, but in all of the plans that I studied, most businesses are not doing that. Now doubling may not be the right answer. I'll show you how to get the right answer, but it's a good place to start. If you're growing at 100%, the odds are very good you're going to need to grow your sales force at 100%. So that's where I would start, but again, across thousands of plans, that's not what I found people are doing. So put in your number of salespeople and how many meetings every week are they going to do. Careful, this is meetings per staff member per week. So if, for example, we only had half a salespeople person in month 1, but we're going up to 2 salespeople in month 2, then that's still 5 meetings per person. In this case, we've only got half a person, so we've got 2.5 meetings every week. So don't change both the salespeople number and the number of meetings. The number of meetings is per person per week. Now, careful again, week in, week out, not at burst. You might be able to do 10 meetings in a weird week, but the week after that, you're probably going to do no meetings because it's all follow-up. We want your sustained average. 5 meetings per week per staff member is actually a pretty good place to start. Now, I'm going to calculate the utilisation. And you can see that other than month 1, which is really low, and Q4, which is really high, we're pretty much close to 100% utilisation, which is what we want it to be at. And that means that we need to have these 2, then 4, then 8 salespeople. Now, before we make any minor corrections to fix those anomalies, let me show you one other page that's really critical in this calculation, and it's the velocity page. While that's loading, let me explain why. How much sales force you need is a function of your objectives in terms of how many deals you need to do and your effectiveness at moving buyers through the funnel. The combination of those is what works out how many salespeople you need. So there's no point changing your sales force size if you haven't set the right effectiveness ratios. And right off the bat, I want to flag 2 things with this particular plan. 75% of all leads will result in a proposal and they'll win 1 in 4. I think that's back to front. I'd rather see you qualify out really early and win more. So I'm going to enter now some changed ratios. For a start, I'm going to take you down, and let's say that we're going to get down to only 25% of our leads are going to get a proposal, but we're going to win half of them. And instead of 8 weeks, I want to get that down to maybe 6 weeks. Pardon me, not weeks, meetings. In terms of 8 meetings, I want to get down to 6 meetings. So I've got fewer meetings and a higher closure rate. Now I'll show you something we have to do to affect that. But let's bring that down to 6. And here's what I'm going to change. I have to get into the detail to do it though. I'm going to have no meetings from positions to interested. That is, I'm not going to use my salespeople to get my customers or my prospects interested. I'm going to use marketing to do that. I am going to use my salespeople though to get the prospect troubled, and I am going to get the prospect to work out what they need, but I'm actually going to allocate 2 meetings there. That is, I'm going to work really hard at getting a clear need. I'm only going to have 1 meeting for offer understood, and I'm going to have no meetings. In fact, let's say every second prospect needs a meeting between offer and preference, and every second prospect needs a meeting to get from preference to decision. Now in this example, we've gone down to only 5 meetings. Do I have enough? Maybe I'm going to need to have 2 at offer understood. Once to present to my coach and once to present to all the other buyers. So let's get that up to 6. Remember, we started with 8 meetings and we had a low closure rate. Now, before I move into the detailed stage by, or month by month, quarter by quarter channel effectiveness, I want to take a look first at the overall. So that is, I want to take a look first at what it's going to look like over the next 3 years. So I'll calculate my velocity and I'll look at my utilisation for the whole 3 years. Only when I get that right will I go back and change it month by month, quarter by quarter. So here we go. It's got me at 65% utilisation. The net effect of that is I don't need as much sales force because I've increased my closure rate and I've got marketing to do the heavy lifting at the front. Now I'm going to go through into channel and I'm going to change my sales force size down. I know that I only need 2/3 of the sales force. So I'm going to drop this back to, in fact, let me do it up here. I'm going to change sales force from 5. Let's go back down to, let's say 3. And let's take a look at what utilisation that gives us. Okay, so that's more realistic. I now need 6 people in year 3, 3 in year 2, and I'm going to start only with 1 salesperson, and I'm then going to move on to 2 salespeople by Q2. If I've actually already got 2 salespeople, what I might do is take one of those salespeople and put them into some sort of process documentation role for the next 3 months, because I just don't need that much capacity, but maybe I need to redefine the process. So I might take 1 out of the field, drop down to 1, and even for perhaps even as long as 6 months to get all the processes right so that we can hit some real momentum towards the end of the year and then years 2 and 3. Long story short, that's how we calculate sales utilisation and how many salespeople we need. Given that, here are my basic tips for calculating how much sales force you need to support your growth. Set sales objectives, not revenue objectives. Calculate your velocity and any changes that you plan to velocity. Are you going to get more effective? Are you going to require fewer meetings? Calculate the velocity, including any planned changes, and then finally shape your sales force. So go into your funnel plan now and input your objectives, your velocity and your channel size. Consider having separate plans for different segments that you're targeting. And in that case, you don't allocate the whole sales force to both plans, some to this plan, some to the other plan. Now, if you haven't got a funnel plan, get one now. It's free. Go to funnelplan.com, get yourself a free funnel plan. Obviously, the paid versions have more functionality, but the free one has loads of functionality to begin planning your sales and marketing. Get it now. Go to funnelplan.com if you don't already have one. Look, that's it for this week. I hope you got lots out of that. I had fun putting it together for you. Until next week, where we have loads more lined up, may your funnel be full and always flowing. Our thanks this week to Claudia Ivanka for her production, Hannah Sivalingam for supporting Claudia in that production. My name's Hugh McFarlane and it's been my absolute pleasure to script and present this week's show.